Bret Baier, anchor of Special Report. It's good to have you here. Can I ask you, Bret, what is the supposed impropriety that Democrats are suggesting of the president talking to the Australians about the investigation that Bill Barr is conducting about the 2016 and the origins of that whole investigation? Like, what is he being accused of doing that's wrong?
Well, he's being accused of the same thing that they say happened in the Ukraine phone call, minus what they say is the implied quid pro quo with the holding back of funding, saying pressuring foreign leaders for information to affect an election. However, it's the last election, and he's talked about this publicly. John referenced that May 24th appearance on the South Lawn with reporters in which he said he hoped the Attorney General would look at all kinds of documents and information from Ukraine, from Italy, from Australia. He said all of this publicly. And the Attorney General, with the special prosecutor, the special investigator, John Durham, has been tasked with getting to the bottom of the beginning of the Trump probe and what happened. So it seems like that allegation about talking to world leaders on that front, that there's not a lot there.
You mentioned John Durham, and I wanted to also ask you about him. So he's the U.S. attorney who is tasked with looking into this. Also, we have Michael Horowitz, who is the Inspector General of the Justice Department. What do you know, or what do you hear about the timing that, there's some speculation that the Democrats are concerned that those investigations would look bad for them, and so they want to move forward quickly with impeachment? Anything to any of that timing?
I mean, there's a lot of speculation up here about what's happening, and everything's going so quickly. And one of the reasons may be because Horowitz is going to come forward or Durham is coming to the end. That's all speculation up on Capitol Hill. But we do know that we have two tracks now. We have, much like the Russia probe, we saw the track of where the Democrats were going and what was happening with Mueller, and then where the investigation of the investigators was going. That is still happening. This is dealing with two different things at the same time.
I'm sure that the Justice Department, everybody would like to get this done before the campaign gets fully underway for 2020. And one last question about the intel community. There's been questions about these two forms that existed in the intel community if you wanted to file a whistleblower complaint, and whether they were changed right in the middle of all of this, and if that was to hurt President Trump in some way. The Department of National Intelligence, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, putting out a statement that was kind of complicated. It was like a 4-page statement, but the summary basically saying that there are two forms, but nothing had really changed, that everything is above board here. Is this something now that people can put to rest?
I think so. I mean, this form, this is from the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, saying the form that the whistleblower used was from May of 2018. It was not altered just before this event, pushing back on that premise. But more importantly on this front, I think, is the statement from Senator Chuck Grassley today, who has long been a proponent of protecting whistleblowers on the left and the right. He was very firm, saying that this whistleblower followed the guidelines and needs to be respected and protected, and they need to hear from him or her before moving on or before lodging any partisan, his words, attacks on this person. He didn't mention the president by name, but clearly Chuck Grassley is making clear that he wants to have this person protected and testify in front of Capitol Hill.
All right. Well, there's a lot of moving parts, but we're grateful that you keep track of it all and explain it so well. Bret Baier, thank you. And be sure to check out the new episode of Bret's podcast, The Campaign. He sits down with me and Chris Stirewalt this week. We talked about where the 2020 candidates stand on foreign policy, and it's available on iTunes or wherever you listen. I'll tell you what, we'd love for you to listen.